Oh, it started. Hey guys, and welcome back to Fox and Squeeze, or welcome for the first time if it's your first time. Happy to have you. Today's topic of discussion is going to be paring down, well, it's paring down is what I'm calling it, but it's kind of a mixture of things. It's going to be about minimalism, a certain technique for like cleaning out your home and tidying up. It's Marie Kondo's technique, if you've ever heard of it. It's called the KonMari method. And then we're also going to go over tiny house living because it may possibly very much likely be in my future. Before we start, I just want to say that everything I go over on here I found from multiple sources on the internet, and I'm just relaying that information to you. Though I may state my opinion or even talk about personal experiences, I'm not trying to influence your opinions or decisions. I encourage you to do your own research before making your own opinion. Don't let me or anybody else make an opinion or your opinions for you. So the whole reason that I wanted to do this subject, or I guess the thing that kind of started me on all of this, were tiny houses, or at least that's what made me start trying to pare down, because we decided that we wanted to get a tiny house. It's not for like another year to 2 years off, but because I'm crazy, I want to start paring down now because it'll make it easier in the long run. We've already moved a couple times as a couple, and we have a lot of stuff for not having a lot of stuff, and it'll be refreshing to get rid of a whole bunch of stuff. So that's what kind of got me started, because we are planning to do this tiny house thing, and we are very adventurous and stuff, so we like the idea of being able to have a house that clips on to your vehicle and you can just take it literally anywhere you want to go. Well, anywhere in America, at least, we can take it, and we'll have our house with us, we'll have our car with us, and we'll have our fur babies with us. So that to us is awesome because we want to travel. And there's also a whole bunch of other stuff we want to do with it that I won't get into with you today because that's a whole nother subject I want to do for another video. If you don't know what a tiny house is, you could look it up. Google it. You can see what I'm talking about. But they are trailers. Well, they start off as trailers that you hook up to like a truck. And then they build a house on the trailer, literally. It has to be within a certain weight range, but they build a house, a full working house on the trailer. And some of them you have to plug into places and stuff like that, but ours we're planning on making self-sustainable, not only because it helps on bills and stuff and movability, we can literally go anywhere, but also because it helps the environment, and that is a huge thing that my husband and I are advocates for. So we're going to get solar panels and stuff put on our house. We're going to get gray and clear water tanks put in our house, compostable toilet, all sorts of stuff like that to make it self-sustainable. If you want to see a little bit more about like the insides of tiny homes and how they're built and even what you kind of have to do to be able to live in one, I would suggest going and checking out Tiny House Nation. It's on Netflix. A lot of my suggestions are on Netflix because they don't have any commercials and I think that they're awesome. But if you go check out Tiny House Nation, it's a great show that's on there right now. And I don't think they have all of it on there, but there is I think 2 or 3 seasons, and you can see them making houses for different kinds of people, and you can see all the cool things they can put in there. They can put different kinds of storage, they can make custom furniture. Really cool, all the things that you can do in such a small space to make it feel big. And one of the reasons also we're going tiny is because of productivity. We feel that if there's a smaller space to move around in or have to move around in, that you will get things done quicker. There's a lot less space to have to move. You spend more time walking around in a normal house than you would in a tiny house. So even though it's like maybe a small amount of time, it adds up to a large amount of time over time. But yeah, you can put a whole bunch of different stuff in there and in all these creative different ways, and you can really modify the house to fit your specific needs, and even just things that you think are kind of fun and cute and that you want, you can build into it. And it's a lot more affordable, which is another huge reason why we want to do it, because you can pay like $100,000, which I know is a lot of money, like if you're just talking about money, but as far as houses go, you can buy like an okay house for like 200 grand, or you can spend like 120 on a tiny house and get exactly what you want with like nice appliances and the countertops you want, and as long as like your weight level is okay for your trailer and your car and stuff like that. But my point is that you can get way higher end appliances and fixtures and finishes and all that good stuff with a tiny house versus buying a whole house and not getting what you want but spending more money. So it's really, really affordable, which is just awesome. So with tiny living, there are some compromises that you're going to have to make. And one of those compromises is getting rid of a whole bunch of stuff. And that's what I'm trying to start to do now. Even though we're kind of far ahead in the future and we're like a year or two off, we're going to keep our big stuff, like our big furniture, like our couch and our TVs for now and stuff like that, but get rid of those closer to the time it is to move. Whereas right now I'm more focusing on the little things, or the things that I really don't need that much of, like clothing and accessories and even kitchen appliances that we don't use, or bathroom stuff that we don't use or that we should use out before we move and stuff like that. I'm trying to clear out the space and organize it better so that when it does come time for us to pack up and go, it's a lot easier, more functional, everything's more organized and clean, so it's just an easier process. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be going over kind of a couple topics today, and tiny house living kind of got me into researching how to get rid of things. Like, how do I decide what I actually need, and what to get rid of? Because I'm one of those people who gets really sentimental about things sometimes that don't really mean anything, but it's hard for me to let go. So one of the subjects that I got into via tiny house living and paring down was minimalism. And I'm not talking about the art trend or music movement. I think that's like what you usually get when you Google that phrase, minimalism. They'll talk about art or music, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the lifestyle movement of minimalism, which is living with less, basically. And for many in this lifestyle, they focus on getting rid of the excess in your life and focus more on your experiences over your possessions. And there's another definition that I got from the Minimalist Vegan, or the Minimalist Vegan, and it says the process of identifying what is essential in your life and eliminating the rest. So even researching this, I found like a whole bunch of definitions. So that's kind of, those three kind of summarize what it is as a whole. There are a whole range of minimalists. You can live the lifestyle just in your day-to-day, as far as like you try to live with less, try not to spend on unnecessary things, and try to cut back where it's possible, but you don't cut back too far to where you feel hurt by it, because I know a lot of people are, like I said, I kind of am sentimental about things, so you don't want to get rid of certain things, and like that's okay. A lot of minimalists will tell you too that that's okay. And then there's the other type of, or the other end of what a minimalist is, and that's people who live with literally only what they need, and they have like one set of dishes, or however many people are in their household, but if it's one person, they'll have like one plate, one bowl, one set of utensils, one cup. They have one chair where they like to sit when they're lounging. They have their bed, obviously, and like their sheets, but that's kind of all they have. And some of them don't live so bare to where they don't have anything, but some of them do. There's actually a documentary on Netflix. Once again, I told you I'm obsessed with Netflix. I'm not sponsored, I swear. I'm just a couch potato and I am obsessed. But it's a documentary. It's called Minimalism. I recommend you watch it if this interests you at all, because it dives way more into it than what I'm going to be talking about here today, at least. There's one guy on there and you see everything that he owns, and I think he owns something like 30 something items total when he travels, because he travels a lot for, well, at least he was traveling for this documentary, and that's who they were kind of following. And he had like 5 shirts and 3 pairs of jeans. It was just showing how little he actually owned. And they even showed his house back home. He had, like I said, 1 chair, and there was like a lamp next to it, if I remember correctly, and like maybe 1 picture on the wall if he had anything. Like, it was very, very bare. And for me, I like to have beautiful things in my house too. Like, I've got all these plants back here because I think they're pretty, or the lights and the candles and stuff like that. Like, that's stuff that's not really necessary, but that's something that brings me joy. Living like that with such little, or owning so little, is totally okay too. Like, I am not here to judge anybody and how they live their lifestyle. I totally agree with whatever you want to do. It doesn't affect me anyways. Like, you do you, you know? People who are that way and they have very little, that's great. And then there are the people who don't have as little, and that's great too. There are minimalists in the documentary as well who are talking about it's totally okay and it's good to keep things that you love, that you want to keep. One guy gave an example using books. He was talking about, if you love books, if you not only love to read the stories, of course, that are in the books, but you love how the pages feel when you like touch them with your fingers or turn the page, or you love how they smell, or they love how they look up on your bookshelf or where you have them set up because they just remind you of all the good stories they've told you. Like, if those mean something to you and they bring you joy like that, then of course you should keep them because they bring value to you. They make you happy. They bring a positive aspect into your life, a positive energy or a positive vibe, and anything like that you should definitely keep, unless you're really trying to get rid of everything. But that, again, that's your decision. But if you do decide to keep things, make sure that they do bring you joy. And that actually kind of leads me into my next subject, which is Marie Kondo's method, which is the KonMari method. And it talks a lot and focuses a lot around what the level of joy that the items bring you and how to determine whether or not to keep an item. This method doesn't focus, well, I don't want to say it doesn't focus on getting rid of things, because it does, but it more focuses on what you get from the items or the value that they bring into your life. It, like I said, was written or created, the KonMari method. KonMari, I hope I'm saying that right. It was created by Marie Kondo, and it, for her, is mostly about organizing and simplifying your house and everything in your home, making it easier to work with. If you look this up and research it, it'll tell you that the best way that it's described is in her book. And the book, I'm going to read it because I don't want to get it messed up. The book is called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, and it's by Marie Kondo. Or if you're like me, once again, couch potato, watching Netflix. On Netflix, there is I don't know if you'd call it a documentary, but a series that is based on this method, and it's called Tidying Up with Marie Kondo on Netflix. Go find it if this is interesting to you as well. But so Marie starts with some rules, some basic rules to get you started on this method journey. Like, these are rules we're going to follow throughout the entire method. And there are 6 of them, and I'm going to read them off as well. The first one is commit yourself to cleaning up. So make sure that you're like, okay, I'm going to actually do this. This isn't something that I'm like, yeah, I'll do that eventually. I'll get to it. No, you have to commit to doing it now. Number 2, imagine your ideal lifestyle. So how do you want it to look when everything's done, all the work's done, all the hard work is over? What do you want your lifestyle to look like? What do you want your house to look like? How cluttered do you want it to be? Or whatever, you know? Number 3 is finish discarding first. Before getting rid of items, sincerely thank each item for serving its purpose. I will get into more why I love this rule so much later, but I love this rule so much. But number 4 is tidy by category, not location. We'll go through the categories in a little bit. Number 5, follow the right order of the categories we're going to go over in a second. And then number 6 is ask yourself if it sparks joy. Like I was saying before, joy seems to be a running theme in today's topics, because if you get value or joy from your items, then of course you should keep them. So the categories that you go through in order are as follows. The first one is clothes. So this is not just clothes, actually. It's your shoes, your accessories, everything that you use to get ready in the morning. besides like your makeup and stuff like that if you wear makeup. So like your jewelry, your clothing, your undergarments, your shoes, even your hair accessories necessarily is, I would consider part of that, like bow ties and stuff like bow ties, hair ties and bows and clips and stuff like that. All that is included. And during this method, she has you take everything out and put it in a huge pile. So there is literally a pile of stuff on your bed is usually where they lay it out, or like a table. Or I've seen a couple episodes in that series where they had a whole room they needed to move the stuff into because the houses were so cluttered, and I'm just amazed at what they turn into at the end. But you put all the stuff in this huge pile, and then you go through it item by item, and you hold up the item. And this is the method you use throughout the whole thing. Not just with clothing, but I'm going through this now because I got into it, and it's the first step is clothing. So you go through it item by item, and you look at it and you determine whether or not that item brings you joy, or if it brings you value, or like Marie likes to say, sparks joy. And if it does, you keep it. If it doesn't, you thank it for serving you, and then you discard it. And you thank it for giving you its time and for doing whatever it was doing. Like if it was a cozy sweater, it kept you warm every time you wore it in the past. So thank it for doing that. And then you part ways with it. And that, I love that so much because I am so sentimental that I feel bad throwing my stuff out. So this act of thanking it and being grateful for it just seems right with my soul. I also love this method of thanking our items before we get rid of them because they also bring a sort of self-awareness, I feel like, because you are being grateful for having this object in your life at all. Because I know this is cliche maybe to say, but like there are people out there that have far less than you. Like I can promise if you're watching me right now that there are people out there that have less than you. So like just being aware of yourself and being grateful for what you do have, I feel like brings a lot of joy into life itself. There's a whole nother study we could do on that, is how much joy gratefulness alone brings you. But that would, like I said, be a whole nother subject. So I'm going to move on. Let's go to the next step. So the next category is books. So after you've piled all of your clothes on your bed and your accessories and your shoes, and maybe don't put your shoes on your bed, but all of that stuff is in one pile, and you've gone through all of it, gotten rid of the stuff that doesn't bring you joy or doesn't spark joy, and kept the stuff that did. And then you put that away in your closet. And if you watch that series on Netflix, she'll even show you, or even just Google it or get her book, she will show you like certain ways to fold things and how to store things so that they're really easy to reach. You can see all of the different pants you own when you open your drawer, the way that she folds things, you can see all of them. So you know exactly what you have, exactly what's clean, exactly what options you have to wear for that day, which I also love because like I said before, we're all about productivity. And if I'm not spending 10 minutes looking for an outfit because I don't know what's clean and I'm looking through the hamper and stuff for a certain thing because I can't find it, if I have such an organized space with my clothing, it'll take me far less time to look for things because it'll all be right there and lined up. And if it's not there, then I know it's dirty. Or it's in the dryer, because that happens a lot too. So after you've done all that, you're going to move on to books. And this literally is just books, which I think is pretty self-explanatory. You go through the same method. The next thing on the list is papers. So this category contains things like coupons, files. I would consider in this category like birth certificates and stuff like that, even your important files that you want to keep with you all the time, like your social security card and stuff like that. Like files like that, you go through them, get rid of what you don't need if you're just keeping stuff for the heck of it, or if you're keeping things that you didn't realize you were keeping, that's just junk or trash or whatever, throw that away. Or if it's something that sparks joy, like maybe it's a picture your kid drew you like 10 years ago and it just melts your heart every time you see it because it reminds you of their cute little faces when they gave it to you. Like that makes sense too. But keep those things, keep the important things. It's the same kind of process. You kind of pile it all up, go through it one at a time, one by one. That's a big part, is organizing as well. So after you figure out what you're keeping, you organize it whatever way fits you. If you don't want to be as anal as we are, then don't be. And then the next category is kimono, and this is what she calls it, as kimono, but it kind of means miscellaneous. So this includes almost everything else in your house. It's movies, puzzles, appliances, kitchen stuff, bathroom stuff. If you have a garage, all the stuff in your garage. I don't know. I can't remember her specifically saying put all this in a pile, and I can't imagine you putting all of this in a pile because it's literally like everything else in your house. But I think at this point it would be okay to move room from room to room once you start kimono. So you start kimono, start in the kitchen and do the kitchen, or start in the garage and do the garage, and then move on to the next thing in kimono. But it's the same kind of method. The last category is sentimental items, and these things would include photos, heirlooms, memorabilia, trophies, which I guess is kind of falls into memorabilia, but you know what I mean, like those things that really pull at your heartstrings that you can't get rid of. I guess your kids' drawings would technically fall under this category as well. This is the last category that she has you go through, and I think a part of that, at least from watching her on TV and watching her actually interact with her clients, made me get the feeling or the vibe that she does this step last because it can be the most painful for people. So to kind of come full circle, I wanted to start this process, like I said, now, even though we're not moving for like another year or two, depending on other things going on. But I wanted to start this process because I wanted to get ahead of schedule. I don't know. And honestly, paring down shouldn't be too hard for me. I've lived in small spaces before. When we first got married, I was living with my grandparents. We lived with them and it was awesome, but we were in a room and it was actually like the biggest room in the house, so I can't even complain about that one. I have also lived in a space where it was literally just a tiny bedroom with another person, and I didn't have a closet or anything, and that was honestly kind of stressful, but that again is a whole nother story. But my point is, I've lived in small space before, so it shouldn't be too hard for me to get rid of a bunch of stuff, but I've been really spoiled lately, and my last 2 apartments have been quite roomy, and we will be downsizing from this. So I think I need to start sooner rather than later getting rid of these things. But I have started already. I did the KonMari method. I really hope I'm saying that right. With my clothes already and stuff. I didn't go through all of the categories yet, which I feel bad about not doing yet. But like I said, there are things that I have time for still. My clothes I did go through, and I cut my wardrobe down by like half already, and like at least hanging wise, a quarter or a third of it are clothes that I am just keeping for work. Once we move, we plan on me not having to work anywhere else, so by the time we leave, I won't need those clothes anymore. So I'll get rid of those or donate them or something before I leave, because they aren't things that I would wear outside of work, if that makes sense. But I don't have enough of my clothes that I wear day to day that are necessarily work appropriate. So I do have to keep those clothes for now so that I have something to wear to work. But my point is, I've already pared down so much of my closet, and it is amazing. Even if you don't want to commit to any part of what I'm talking about, like, totally understand. Everybody's situation is different, and like I said before, I'm not trying to influence your decisions to do anything in any type of way. But for me, doing this has cleared up so much space, not only in like my house, but in my brain and my life. It's cleared off stress. Like, go through your things. I encourage you at the very least, because it brings a kind of peace to your day-to-day life. With my closet, it's half as full as it used to be. I used to, like, you know when you have to shove hangers like with the clothes back in there, and you're like shoving them between things because they don't really fit because there's so much on the rack? Maybe you don't, but I did. And now I have so much space that like my clothes keep getting farther and farther apart because they have so much space on the rack. I need to like shove them back together. I can see everything, and I'm OCD, like I said, once again. And so all of my clothes are categorized by like my color. So like it's all the pinks and then reds, and I go by rainbow because I love rainbows. They're my jam. And so in rainbow order, but within rainbow order, they are categorized by sleeve size. and all sorts of things like that, and like dresses and skirts and jackets and all that sort of thing. So I organized the crap out of my closet, and now when I go in there, like I know exactly what I have. If I'm looking for a certain shirt, I'm like, oh, it's pink. Go to the pink section. Okay, it's a crop top, so I go to the more front of the section, and it has short sleeves, so it's the back of the crop top section. You see what I'm saying? Like it's super categorized, so I know exactly where to go. I know exactly where to find what I'm looking for. If I don't find it there, then I know, like I said before, it's dirty or it's in the dryer. So I go check the dryer, and if it's not in there, then it's dirty, and I gotta find something else to wear. But it really speeds up my process of, my husband might disagree with this, because sometimes I just cannot find something to wear regardless because I'm indecisive and just aren't feeling I'm not feeling clothes some days. But overall, I feel like it has really sped up my process of picking clothes, especially when it comes to work and there's only like certain things I can wear, because I'm not looking for things so much and I can see everything. I know my options, and it really saves me time, and it saves me stress too, because I'm not standing there like, where the heck is this piece of clothing that I need, because I see it or I don't, and so I know where it is. So I really do encourage you. If not, I mean, if you don't want to do your clothes, fine. If there's an area in your house that stresses you out and you think could be more efficient or more clean or look nicer or whatever your reasoning is for it, I encourage you to go through that room and find things that you don't need anymore and to get rid of them, or find things that don't bring you joy anymore and get rid of them. Because if they don't bring you joy, why are they in your life anyways? Don't you want to live a life full of happiness or joy, like I keep saying? Or don't you want to have positive experiences over negative experiences? Why keep things that bring you a negative feeling? And that's a whole nother thing that I wanted to comment on. Was what I want to say is, another question that you want to ask yourself when you're going through these things is not only, does it bring me joy or does it spark joy? But I also think you have to ask yourself, why do I want to keep this, really? Some people, I feel like, will say yes because their heartstrings will get tugged on, you know what I mean? Like they are like, yes, I need to keep this. I encourage you to ask yourself, is that urge you're feeling because you really do love that thing and it really does bring you joy? Or is it because of an attachment you have that makes you think that you need to keep that thing? And attachments is a whole nother subject I want to go through another day. But basically, like, are you keeping this out of guilt because someone gave it to you and so you feel guilty getting rid of it, but you don't actually like it or use it ever? It just sits. Like, why are you keeping that thing? You know, like, don't let yourself feel the need to keep something out of guilt or shame or any negative emotion, because then every time you look at that thing, it's going to bring up a negative emotion. I had things in my wardrobe that every time I looked at them, it reminded me of a certain time in my life that I didn't want to be reminded of. So getting rid of that, once again, has relieved stress in my life. Make sure that you're keeping things, when you do keep things, for the right reasons, that they are actually bringing you joy and making your heart happy, because that's what you want around you, are things that make your heart happy. I came across a lot of people saying to buy high quality items when you do buy things. So don't buy unnecessary things. Obviously, if they're things that you love, once again, like if you want to get a new book because you love books, get a new book. But when you do buy things, make sure they're things that, once again, bring you value, spark joy, but that are high quality. Wouldn't you want your clothing items to be of higher quality so that they not only last longer, but they don't fade as easily? They wear out faster if they're lower quality. If they're higher quality, they won't. And I saw a lot of people suggesting that, not only with clothes, but with items in your household in general. When you do decide to buy something of high quality, because that not only gives you something of great value for now and in the future, but it also saves you money in the long run, because you won't have to go out in another short amount of time to buy a new thing. Your shirt might last you 10 years rather than 5, and maybe you'll get tired of that shirt before then, and then that's all well and good, because then you can donate it and then someone else can still get value out of it for a long time. Like, no matter how you treat your clothes and your items, high value items are always going to bring you more value. So to wrap things up, I would recommend that if any of these subjects interested you, minimalism, go check out Minimalism on Netflix. It's a great documentary. If you're interested in Marie Kondo's technique, please go check out Tidying Up with Marie Kondo on Netflix, or her book. If you are interested in tiny house living, go watch Tiny House Nation on Netflix, or you can, if you have cable, HGTV has a whole bunch of shows with tiny houses in them that I've seen, and I think Netflix even has other tiny house shows, and Hulu might as well. I think I've watched a few on that as also. So check those things out if those interest you. I just love to watch TV and learn things and look things up after I've watched things about them, or vice versa. So I'm just trying to give you the resources that I also had. But definitely check it out if any of these things interested you. So yeah, that's all we're really going to go over today. If you wanted me to elaborate a little bit more on any of these subjects, or any of these subjects in particular, or a certain part of one of these subjects, let me know down in the comments. I would love to cover more on this subject or one of these subjects if you guys are interested in me doing so. As a matter of fact, if there's anything that you want me to cover, any subject, please also comment below. I can't get enough ideas, and also I love learning things or learning about things that other people find fascinating, because I think that teaches me a little bit more about other people, and that's something else that I find fascinating. So definitely, if there's something intriguing you want to go over, leave it down there. I will link all of my links and things that I've been talking about in the description below. But yeah, remember to always do your own research, come to your own conclusions and opinions, and most importantly, be yourself. I will see you guys next time for something fascinating. Bye.